Hey, what is up, y'all? Welcome back to the channel, MMA Cannibal. Today, I'm coming at you guys with my top prospects in the UFC that I'm excited for. I picked out like 4 or 5 from a few different weight classes that really, like, every time I see them on a card, I get hyped. It's one of those people that don't have a ranking, don't have a big name, but you still, like, just from the cards you've seen or just from what you've heard and the highlights, like, this is probably going to be exciting. And even if it's not, it's kind of just worth watching for the idea of like a new, fresh face, up and comer kind of guy. So without further ado, first off, what is my criteria for a prospect? As you can see, it's not very niche. It's pretty easy. All you have to do is be unranked right now. You can't have been ranked in the past, so nobody like obviously Michael Johnson wouldn't be a prospect, but somebody like that who's like gone to number 15, number 14 and then fallen back out, they're not going to be on this list. And they also have to be active. And that's not saying that they have to be getting like 2 fights every single year. It's okay if they have injuries and whatnot, but you can't be like a Kron Gracie who just like takes years off of MMA because he wants to go do like jujitsu and stuff. Like that doesn't count. You're not really an MMA prospect. You're just kind of there to like have some fun in the sport, it seems like. Starting off, my first prospect that I'm really excited for, Cameron Simon. Probably, it's between him and Handsome Squidward over there, Roses Jr., for who's the most exciting bantamweight on the come up right now. I kind of lean more towards Cameron Simon. I feel like he's a lot more marketable, honestly, than Roses Jr. I know Roses hits that Mexican market really well, but guys, the memes are great. Don't get me wrong. I love the memes.
Word for you to pronounce in English.
And if you want to count that as marketability, then yeah, that's marketability. But I think for in terms of what the UFC is looking for, like Cameron Simon just speaks way better. I really don't want to like shit on Raul Rosas Jr. here. Like I like the guy. I think he's got a really good personality. I like what he has to say when I can understand him. But Cameron Simon just like he just looks cleaner too. Like there's no handsome Squidward jokes here. Cameron Simon just looks like a dude. You know, it's age 22. That's crazy young. Especially for just getting into the UFC. He already finished his Dana White Contender Series fight and finished 2 out of 3 of his UFC fights to just continue his undefeated record that he's built up. And I mean, between Jamal Hill and Sean O'Malley, we're starting to see that the Contender Series really does produce some really top-notch talent. So it's super exciting for Simon, especially with the way he's just been able to really use his athleticism and physicality and just kind of bully some of these guys that he's fought so far, especially like Terrence Mitchell, who we all saw how he took the punch from Rosas Jr. So in retrospect, maybe it's not that crazy, but still hilarious. He's got that MSP 3-letter acronym nickname. So, MSP, GSP, OSP, all of those. It's a great lineage to look back on. So that's a good omen, if you're all into the curses and whatnot. We can finally have an opportunity to get ourselves a real African bantamweight champ. I can't wait. It'll be good. The memes will be funny, especially if there's still somebody like an Aljo or something up there who he might be able to like start some friction like that with, the way DDP did with Izzy. And he's already got a fight coming up in 2 weeks from now. After this Dawson Green card, on the Yusuf Barboza card, he's fighting Christian Rodriguez. And he just fought a couple months back at International Fight Week on the same card with DDP. So he's getting right back in there. He really didn't take any damage in that fight. So I'm glad to see he's getting another one in before the end of the year. And on a fight night, too, it'll really. I mean, that Yusuf Barboza card for a fight night looks really good. There's a lot of like prospects and not very popular names and low ranked fighters on there that I like to watch. So that Yusuf Barboza card's one to watch out for. My second prospect that I'm really excited for, Diego Lopes. Now, Cameron Simon, I genuinely really think will probably become champion at some point, or at the very least will definitely contend for the title. Diego Lopes, on the other hand, I can't 100% say that I see that. He's shown very promising results in his first 2 fights. Uh, he came in. I'm sure you all know the story of how he took on Movsar Evloev short notice, gave him probably the hardest fight of Evloev's career, and almost arguably won. He didn't win, and I don't think he won, but goddamn if he got close. There's no way you. I mean, in a slightly alternate reality where Lopes lands like 5 more punches, I feel like he wins that fight 2-1. Maybe I need to go rewatch it because it wasn't quite that close, but that's how close I remember it being. And then he came into his second UFC fight, and I was expecting him to kind of have like a Bruno Ferreira effect, where like Bruno Ferreira came in on short notice against Gregory Rodriguez, and everyone was like, "Oh, RoboCop's just gonna knock him out," and then Ferreira absolutely starches him. But then Ferreira got exposed in his next fight against Ruzaboyev, and who will also be on this list. And so, I feel like that's a very common trend with people who come into the UFC on that short notice fight. Usually they'll lose it, but they might look really good or put up a hell of a fight, and everyone's like, "Oh my god, this guy like short notice did that to a ranked contender. Let's see what he can do on a full camp." And then on a full camp, they just get absolutely starched, and you're like, "Okay, ignore this person." But Diego Lopes beat those allegations. He came back and armbarred the shit out of that person. I mean, I really hope you guys have seen the highlight. I'll probably put it up on the screen right now.
Now the armbar, he used the armbar to sink in the triangle. Now he's going back to armbar. Let's go, elbows.
Because holy crap, that was one of the nastiest armbars I've ever seen. He's got the chest tattoo, so he conceived, believed, and achieved it. He took those words from Luke Rockhold to heart, and he got himself into the UFC. He's age 28, which is a little bit on the older side, but I mean, he's still not even 30, and he's just gotten into the UFC. He's got a 22-6 record, so he's already got some decent experience already before he's in the UFC. So I'm really excited to see what this guy can do with his jiu-jitsu. I think the biggest thing holding him back is honestly just that it's the featherweight division, and that division gets really stacked towards the top. So I am a little concerned for him there. But I definitely could see him reaching like a number 10, number like 7-ish area ranking at some point at least, He's fighting Pat Sabatini next month, UFC 295, if I remember. 11/11 is what that is. And I don't remember exactly when his last fight was, but it was not long ago. It was like, I think it was 3 months exactly from when the 11/11 fight happens. It'll have been 3 months since his last fight, exactly 3 or 4, I remember, because it was really close. And I definitely haven't caught myself sitting around going, "Wait, when is Diego Lopes fighting again?" Next up, Benoit Saint Denis. Now this guy just makes it under the cut for this list because he's fighting Matt Frivola on that same date that Diego Lopes is fighting, 11/11, the UFC 295 card. And if he beats Matt Frivola, which I think he will, he'll be ranked. So he won't be eligible for this list. So I'm sneaking him in right here. Age 27. I can't believe that this dude's already been ex-Special Forces in the French Special Forces guy. He had like an amateur MMA career. Then he went into French Special Forces. Then after that, went on to do like every jiu-jitsu tournament that was in France that he could find, where he kept placing like number 2 and 3. But for a guy that just came out of French Special Forces and still ranking that high in the national jiu-jitsu tournaments, I think is pretty impressive. Also, I mean, the new Mirko Cro Cop, because of that, I mean, how many ex-Special Forces do we get in the UFC or in MMA in period? He's got a 12-1 record. He's 4-1 in the UFC, 2 knockouts and 2 subs. This dude goes for the finish. He is aggressive as shit. I don't know if you guys have seen his fights. You've definitely seen the highlights. He is crazy vicious out there. He will put you in the war. He not only does he put himself in the fire, he lights a fire and throws you in it. Like, his only loss was his UFC debut. And admittedly, he got pretty, like, battered in that one. But given the people that he's come back to beat, like Ishmael Bonfim just absolutely crushed him, and Thiago Moises absolutely crushed him, I'm not worried about that loss anymore. A win like that over Thiago Moises, that eliminates my doubt from the loss that he had. You know, he's just absolutely lit everything in his path on fire before and since the loss. Man has shown nothing but an absolute warpath, you know, God of War. What can I say? And putting him against Matt Frevola is incredibly A+ matchmaking. I cannot wait. They're not both X special forces, but both veterans, both guys that like to go for the finish, exciting strikers. I can't wait. That's one of my that's probably one of my top 4 fights on UFC 295. That one is going to set the house on fire. I can't wait for BSD to come out and show what he's made of. And the last guy I want to talk about today is Nursultan Ruziboyev. You might have heard me mention him when I was talking about Diego Lopes. This is the guy that came back and he finished Bruno Ferreira in the first round in Bruno Ferreira's second UFC fight, after he knocked out Robocop, like I just said.
Has 23 first-round finishes and 34 wins.
I mean, it's 5'10". Clearly on the side.
Wow! Welcome to the UFC.
He's age 29. He's the oldest prospect I have on this list. But you might also notice that his record is a lot more filled out than like any of the other guys on this list. Everyone else is like barely double digits or like just about to hit double digits. Look at this dude. Over 40 fights. I'm actually, hold on, let me do that math real quick. That's 43, 40. That's like 44 fights right there. He just made his UFC debut earlier this year. That was the first round knockout over Bruno Ferreira. I mean, just look at these stats. I'm going to just start reading these stats. 35 wins, 8 losses, 2 draws. 12 by knockout, 20 by submission, 24 finishes in the first round. What the hell? Insane number. It's an insane number. You might want to look at it. Possibly you could look at it as can crushing, the way like Khabib has so many wins outside of the UFC like that. But, you know, this guy, he's really not doing it the same way that Khabib did it, though, because if you look at his opponent's records, you know, by the time he's 8-0, he's fighting guys that are 8-2, 9-1. He gets up to 15. He's fighting guys that are 15-3, 17-2. You know, he gets up to guys that are 20-3, 22-5. You know, he's not fighting people that are just like barely starting their careers or already obviously terrible. He's fighting guys who also have records similar to him. So even if they're all cans, they're all at least similar levels of cans. And he came in and finished his UFC debut in the first round. So I'm tempted to say they're not cans out there, wherever he is in Uzbekistan, which is same place as Shavkat. And if you remember, Shavkat's got that 100% finish rate. This guy's got 94. That's damn close. That's damn close. And I've seen highlights and clips of him from outside the UFC. And that's the reason why I put Uzbekistan Oliveira, is because when I watch him fight in those clips, he reminds me so much of Oliveira in the way he just has like that blood in the water, killer shark mentality. As soon as he has you hurt, as soon as he could smell blood, he goes for the finish. And he's got such good like finishing IQ, is what I like to call, is kind of what I call it when it comes to like people like him and Oliveira, where it's like, as soon as you get the opponent hurt, they just know exactly what to do to like whatever the perfect next step is to get them closer to finishing the fight. They know what to do. You know what I mean? Like a lot of people you'll see, they get hurt and like the opponent will start shelling up and then they start like headhunting or take him down to the ground. But no, Oliveira and Ruziboyev, they're the type to know like, oh, that's when you start hitting the body. That's when you start like throwing the looping punches. And that's when you really start to put it on. Also, this guy is 6'5" with a 76-inch reach. If you could see, for reference, Alex Pereira is 6'4" with a 79-inch reach. By the way, he's a middleweight. And what? How is nobody talking about that? He's fucking bigger than Alex. He's at least taller. I don't think he's actually bigger. I think Ruziboyev is actually like physically, like technically smaller than Pereira, so it's an easier weight cut for him. But I like that a lot better because that means he'll feel a lot better at middleweight, but still get a lot of the same advantages from having a 6'5" frame with a 76-inch reach. Now, admittedly, 76-inch reach isn't that crazy. 79 would be a lot better. But I think coupled with the insane levels of height, it'll really work out. He's also, I don't remember when his last fight was. It wasn't long ago. Again, it was probably 4 or 5 months ago at most. And he's got another fight coming up next month against Kyle Braujo on that Brazilian UFC Fight Night card. And that one I'm upset about because I like both these guys and I don't want to have to pick a winner. But I am probably going to go with Ruziboyev on that one. I like Kyle Braujo, but I just see a lot more from Nursultan that I like. But anyways, guys, those are like my top 4 prospects that I'm really excited for. Let me know what prospects you guys are excited for. And if you enjoyed the video, please like, comment, and subscribe. Any support is appreciated. And thank you for watching. Stay violent.